Got started a little bit late today, but I went to press go and the program turned off. I had to go back and do it again. Hopefully this works. I'm going to check.
Still waiting. Okay.
We're good? So, welcome. Welcome to our Thursday. I think it's Thursday. Our Thursday meditation. It's our last day of the week. And I do want to say, next week, we won't be having our meditations. I am taking some days next week. So I do encourage from 5:30 to 6 to sit down and take a half hour to be quiet and find some stillness and peace, even though we're not doing this. But there it is.
It lives there. They can always come back and.
Yeah, you can always go to YouTube, and every single one of these meditations is on YouTube or Vimeo. You can go to Vimeo also, and you can just write in meditation with Rabbi Jonathan Aaron, and you could look at all of them from the past. You could see how much older I've gotten since the beginning of the pandemic till now. I had a full head of hair when this all began, if you can believe that. I wouldn't believe it. But we are in our final meditation on Toldot. I think I saved the best for last. This Torah portion, we've been talking about the various lines that are in it and scenes that are in it. And one thing that happens at the very end is, the whole thing is really about sibling rivalry in a way. And at the end, when Jacob steals Esau's birthright and he steals his blessing, Esau's pretty angry. And he says, when my father dies, I'm going to kill Jacob. I guess he still had the fear of dad in him, so that he needed to wait until his father passed. But I think it calls on something that every one of us have experienced that have siblings or people that we're close to, and that is there are times when we get mad at each other. There are times when our siblings do things we don't like, and they're our siblings, so we can't just say, get away from me, I don't want to ever see you again. Some do. But it just recalls for me the idea that with the people that are closest to us, sometimes we get the most angry. And maybe it's because we're so close to them. Maybe it's because we know them so well. I have a question that I talk with the couples that when I'm doing their wedding, and the question is has to do with, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. There we go. That was a little bumpy ride for a second. The question has to do with change. And, the first question is how do you deal with, how do you change together and all of that? But then the other questions, they go through this whole thing about they're going to change and everything changes. And then it's how are you going to deal with the fact that that person's never going to change? And I think what happens in our lives when we're so close to people is we know their foibles, right? We know that, and they keep on doing those things wrong, and it just kind of exacerbates the problem because that's who they are. And if we look at who Jacob is at this point. Now, that being said, people do change, and they do have the ability to change, but in so many areas we just don't. And when you think about the way Jacob treats Esau, Jacob was probably such a thorn in Esau's side throughout his life. And so first he steals his birthright, and that on second thought, after he ate and was satiated and was able to really think about it, he's probably upset that he sold his birthright so cheaply. And then here we have at the end where he steals his blessing. So the two things that Esau gets, because he came out first, is the birthright and the blessing, and both of those things were taken by his brother. And I was thinking about it this morning, and it just reminded me that Sibling relationships are difficult, and they're deep-seated, and they go way back. And siblings know each other in a way that we don't know them. And so sometimes everything gets so pent up that one little thing, I'm having such issues with this today, one little thing can happen, and it can send the person, off on an angry tirade. And we, if we're the angry one, can say things we wish we didn't say. And it leaves us in a place where there's an emptiness, because there's someone that we're close to that we're somehow pushing away for whatever reason it is. And I understand why we push away. I understand why we get so angry at our siblings or our relatives or the people we're closest to, because we're in such close contact with them. As some wise person once said, where there's contact, there's conflict. So we have to expect there's going to be conflict, and we're going to be upset with them. Things are going to happen. So part of our mindfulness, I guess, is to notice when that comes up, and to think about whether the reaction is warranted or not. And then, is the reaction more about me, or is it about that other person in the end? And just to think about it, to reflect on it, and to be mindful of what's happening inside of us and the anger that can build. And is it worth it? We only get the siblings we get. We only get the family we get. And it's something worth preserving. I think all too often we think it's not worth preserving, but that's my point of view, is that it is. So as we think about things today, and thoughts come into our head, perhaps a thought about a sibling of yours will come into your head. A sibling that maybe you're having some issues with. Maybe it's not a sibling, maybe it's a partner, maybe it's a friend, and maybe it's you. Maybe you're upset with yourself. And I guess the preface to all of it is we need to continue to be non-judgmental if we can, to not judge, to just notice, and then figure out whether their actions or their words or whatever's happening is appropriate, and then your reaction and your words, and whether you think those are appropriate as well. So let's get into our position for meditation. And at the end of the day, we're going to ask for joy, feelings of joy, and feelings of wholeness and joy, as we prepare for Shabbat and the weekend. So, if you want to start to close your eyes and let the silence begin. Remember, we're just concentrating on our breath, noticing what's happening in our bodies with our breath, with our physical body, with the sounds around us. And we're not changing anything, we're not fixing anything. Our mode is mindfulness. Our mode is to keep our mind concentrated on our breath, and when it moves away, as it will, we just bring ourselves back in love and kindness and chesed. Remember how natural it is for our thoughts to take us. As we come to our last 4 or 5 minutes, we come back together to ask for 2 feelings. The first is, may I feel joy. And the second is, may I feel wholeness. Wholeness is very difficult to feel right now. We're not doing our lives as whole as they had been. So we yearn to have a feeling of our whole selves participating in the world. And that feeling of wholeness, that we are who we are and doing what we love to do. And then we also ask for a feeling of joy, to prepare ourselves for Shabbat, to just bring a smile to our face. I find joy increasingly harder as we continue with the pandemic. My family's sick of hearing the same exact jokes. But yearn for that feeling, that joyous feeling. Trying to find it where we can, but we ask for that feeling to enter inside of us today, for that feeling of wholeness, that we are who we are. Those 2 feelings so important as we finish our week and head into Shabbat, and that joy. So with each breath, may I feel joyous. May I feel whole. May I feel joy. May I feel wholeness. May I feel joy and wholeness. And with each breath, offer that to yourself for a couple of breaths. May I feel wholeness. May I feel joy. May I feel wholeness and joy. If you'd like to invite someone who you think might need a little joy, might need a little wholeness, offer it to them. May you feel joy. May you feel wholeness. May you feel joyous, and may you feel whole. We offer that to somebody. And then just, if you're ready to, I invite you to come back and ask for these feelings just a little bit longer. May I feel joy. May I feel wholeness. May I feel wholeness. May I feel joy. Just a couple breaths there. And we just finish by entering back into our breath, really concentrating on the now, concentrating on this moment, what's happening in our bodies. Thank you so much for joining me today for our Thursday meditation, and I hope you have hope you found stillness and peace. Hope you have a fantastic weekend and a beautiful week next week. May you feel joy. May you feel wholeness. Please have a beautiful evening. Take care.